when you're trying to create new intellectual property, if you like, imagine I come up with a video game called Jumpy Boy, then I have to convince the whole world that they've got to play Jumpy Boy and learn about it. Whereas if I make a game for Aladdin, for example, from Disney, there's all these people that already know that and want that. And if you release that we actually did Aladdin, and we released it when they launched the movie, when you could buy the movie, and you get tons and tons and tons of sales because you're at the right place with the right time with the right thing.
Welcome to Push to Be More with me, your host, Matt Edmondson. This is a show that talks about the stuff that makes life work. And to help us do just that, I am chatting with today's very special guest, Mr. David Perry, about making it in the gaming industry before selling to Sony, and why you should learn something about everything and everything about something. The show notes and transcript from our conversation are available on our website, pushtobemore.com. And whilst you're on there, you can also sign up for our newsletter. And each week we will email you the notes and the links automatically from our conversations direct to your inbox, totally for free, totally amazing. So make sure you sign up for that. Now, this episode is brought to you by Orion Media, which helps entrepreneurs and business leaders set up and run their own successful podcast. You know what? I have found that running my own podcast really rewarding, and it opens doors to amazing people like nothing else I've ever seen. Hence the reason we have Mr. Perry on the phone. Whatever the equivalent of the phone is these days. I have built networks, made friends, had a platform to champion my customers, my team, my suppliers. And I think just about any entrepreneur or business leader should have a podcast because it has had a huge impact on my own business and networking. Of course, that sounds great in theory, but in reality, there is a whole problem of setting up distribution, getting the tech right, knowing what the right podcast strategy is. You know what I mean. The list goes on. And so, you see, I love talking to people, but not all that other stuff. No. So Orion Media takes it all off my plate. I do what I'm good at, and they brilliantly take care of the rest. So if you're wondering if podcasting is a good marketing strategy for your business, do connect with them at orionmedia.com. That's AURION media.com. We will, of course, link to them on our podcast website too, which, one more time, is Push to Be More. Now, joining me with my very hoarse voice today is Mr. David Perry. He is an innovative leader in the gaming industry whose technology has shaped how we see gaming today and in the future. His work with Gaikai led to Sony PlayStation acquiring his company to establish itself in the streaming video games in the cloud. Anyone heard of PlayStation now? So David now finds himself as the CEO of getcarro.com, which is a partnership e-commerce network designed for Shopify brands. So by teaming up with other companies in the same space, over 30,000 brands using getcarro.com are able to improve brand recognition, sales volume, and acquire new customers. The magical trio. So I'm pretty eager to chat with David about his thoughts on leadership, how he deals with challenges, and what he does in his downtime. And I'm really keen to see where he sees the future going. So David, thank you for being here on the Push to Be More podcast. Great to chat with you, sir.
Awesome. Thank you for inviting me. And you know what? I just so you know, I got myself a podcasting microphone and one of those Rodecaster things.
Oh, okay.
Contact Orion Media, I think, and get myself a
Absolutely. Funny, I wish I could show you because I have one of those Rodecaster days too. Did you get the second one or the first one?
I think this is the first one. I think there's a new one just came out. It's the Rodecaster Pro, which has got, you can add all these cool sound effects. You just hit a button and you can have applause and all that.
Yeah, you can. In fact, on the one I've got here, I can do this. I can press this button and it
does this to my voice.
Oh, wow.
So we can geek out on the Rode Procaster. The thing is amazing, that's for sure. And I have one on my desk as well. So love the fact you've got one. What microphone did you get?
I got the Shure SM7B.
Okay.
pretty standard one for this
Yeah,
kind of.
it is. It is.
So,
Good
yeah,
microphone choice. Good mic choice. Yeah, definitely.
I got the cloud lifter, which is the amplifier. So this is I got no excuses now.
You've got the proper tech setup going on. So, whereabouts in the world are you streaming in with your Rodecaster from?
I'm in Southern California, so near a place called Laguna Beach, and it's beautiful down here. And I used to live in just outside London in Surrey, and before that, I lived just outside Belfast in Northern Ireland. So, it's been an interesting journey because you have to make a decision at some point. Do I leave Ireland, and then do I leave England, and then now I'm in California, and I'm like, do I leave California?
Yeah.
It's interesting that the way sort of life opens up these opportunities, and you end up either getting on the airplane or you don't.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, isn't it? So you've been in the States. How long have you been in the States now?
I moved out here in 1991, so it's been a long time. And what happened was I got this phone call from Virgin Games. So Richard Branson decided to get into the game industry. And
Yeah.
I got this call saying, we need a game made for McDonald's and it's an emergency. And can you get on a plane and just fly to California and we'll take care, whatever money you make, we'll pay you more. We'll get you a car, an apartment, but we need you to solve this problem for us. And so, I was sitting there in England in my little house thinking to myself, I don't have a girlfriend right now. Should I just get on the plane and do this thing? And so I did, and I had no idea how much I would fall in love with California.
Fantastic.
And so the thing about California that's kind of interesting is just how it's surrounded by everything. You've got the ocean and all the surfing and beaches and all that. You've also got a desert, like a full-on desert tucked behind it. In the mountains, people are snowboarding and skiing all over the place. You've got Disneyland. You have Los Angeles Airport, which flies everywhere in the world. It's kind of a cool sort of central place where a lot of stuff happens. And so I do like that. Now, the problem is we have earthquakes. And
It's not all sunshine and rainbows, right?
Yeah, there's no earthquakes in Belfast. There's no earthquakes in Surrey. But that's just the way you roll when you move out here.
Yeah. So you went there in the early 90s. You didn't have a girlfriend at the time. So were you a young man when you sort of got on the plane and jetted off, courtesy of Mr. Branson?
Yeah, I was 24 back then. Got on the plane. I had made a lot of games, and I sort of learned a trick, which I think is quite important, is when you're trying to create new intellectual property. If you imagine I come up with a video game called Jumpy Boy, then I have to convince the whole world that they've got to play Jumpy Boy and learn about it. Whereas if I make a game for Aladdin, for example, from Disney, there's all these people that already know that and want that. And if you release that we actually did Aladdin, and we released it when they launched the movie, when you could buy the movie, and you get tons and tons and tons of sales because you're at the right place with the right time with the right thing. And I used to go in the stores and I would watch these hands, the kids' hands, like as they were reaching to the shelves, and you could see like the games with the big brands on them, their hands just magnetically go there, versus Jumpy Boy, which is on the bottom of the shelf and no one's touching it. So I tried both ways. I made a bunch of games that were completely original, and I also made games that were licensed. And one of the first number ones I had was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And so you can imagine, in fact, do you remember in England it was called the Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles?
You couldn't use the word ninja. Yeah.
Come on, that's too much for British children. I like the Spanish version the best. It was Tortugas Ninja, and that was the best one, I think. But ultimately, being involved in something like that, and that changed my life later. So many, many years later, it turned out that the Turtles sold a lot of toys, as you can imagine. The toy company that made all those toys and made billions of dollars was Playmates Toys.
Yeah.
Today, they make toys for Disney and people like that. My path ended up, while I was in America, they invited me to sort of visit with them. And they said, we'd like to start our own video game company, and would you be willing to help us build that?
Oh, wow.
And I said to them, it's funny, we have this history, I've worked on specifically on a game that really matters to you. But I'm not looking to really join your company, but will you fund my company? And if I start my own company in America and I hire people, will you fund that?
Oh,
And they
wow.
said yes. So the result was we ended up building a very cool team called Shiny Entertainment. We made Earthworm Jim, which was a hit at the time, and that was funded by Playmates Toys, the people who made the Turtles.
Mm.
And again, thank goodness I started with the Turtles. What is that? I mean, how do you plan for that, right? How can you, what
It's not in
knowledge
a textbook, is it? It's just not.
take to make that happen? It doesn't, it's crazy, right? Years ago, I had to do a commencement speech at Queen's University in Belfast. And
Mm-hmm.
when I gave the speech, I talked about this and how weird random doors open and things connect, and the dean was very unhappy with my speech at the end because he was like, it's not about luck, it's about education. And I'm like, there isn't a course for this, like that, it's not how it works. So part of it is trying to sort of work out where the opportunities are, and when it works, when someone sort of offers you the airplane flight or the door opens, you gotta make a big decision to do it. But for me, that's worked out really well.
It's interesting you say that because, if I trace back we've had a string of successful e-commerce businesses, and that's our connection, right, is e-commerce with Get Carro. So I've had a string of successful e-commerce businesses, and people say to you, well, what did you do? Where did you learn this at school? And I'm like, no, I did accounting at university. It wasn't. And all that happened was literally, I remember if I trace it back to one event, and that it just happened to be a chance conversation with a friend of mine who said, it was in the late 90s, and he said, I'm looking to get one of these website things that I've been hearing that I should probably get. Do you know anyone that can do them? And I knew of only one company at the time that could do websites. And I said, yeah, there's these guys that do them. They're friends of mine. But it's thousands and thousands of pounds because they were writing code, in Notepad or whatever it was back then, right? And he said, I haven't got that kind of money. I said, listen, I know there's some software out there. I've heard of it. It was called Dreamweaver, going back, to Dreamweaver days. I said, you buy that and I'll figure it out and I'll create the website for you. Just a chance conversation. I already had a job in the evenings. I figured out how to use Dreamweaver, and lo and behold, I started creating websites. That turned into e-commerce, and here I am, all these years later. And it's just bizarre, isn't it? That you, like you say, you can't account for it. It's just seeing that there's an opportunity. And at the time, and I'm sure you didn't know, David, at the time, when taking that opportunity, where it would lead to, but you still took it anyway, right?
Yeah, you see, you did the same thing with Dreamweaver. A lot of people would look at Dreamweaver and say, I don't know how to use that, so it's not, I can't do that. But you're like, no, I'll work this out. I'll solve this problem. And imagine it didn't work out for you. Would it have done you any harm to learn how to make websites on Dreamweaver? Like, imagine that wasn't your career path, but you actually still know how to make websites on Dreamweaver.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really important, that you're constantly adding these skills. The way I think of it is we're like video game characters, and you're, when you level up, when you get better at something, you get +1. Like I'm level 3 on archery, and now I'm level 4 on archery, or something like that. If you think of it, life a bit like that, when you pick up Dreamweaver, it's quite shockingly complicated when you first touch the thing, but once you actually get it working and you start to learn the first sort of commands and things, suddenly you're actually, you have hello world appearing in a web browser, and you start realizing, actually, maybe I could do this, and that's quite an unlock. And so I'm a huge fan of people, actually, because you're +1 in Dreamweaver, and then you do another week, +2 on Dreamweaver, and another week +3. And if you think of it like that, it doesn't have to define who you are at all. It's something you're going to walk much more confidently when you understand how websites are made. A lot of people have absolutely no idea what's going on with the internet. And in your case, you actually understand it. And so it gives you more ideas about maybe other business ideas, or could I make, like Dreamweaver is supposed to be easy, but it's not that easy. Could it be easier than that? And of course, people start thinking, well, I can make it easier than Dreamweaver. And suddenly you've got another company. Yes. So that's the fun part. But yeah, that's really good that you did that. And you can see it affects your life, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does in a massive way. And like you say, I like this idea of leveling up, right? And it's interesting. I mean, you were obviously involved in the gaming world. This idea of leveling up, has that always been around the gaming industry? Is that something that you've always sort of incorporated into games, and so this idea of doing it in life as well has kind of made sense, or was...
It wasn't always around. We had scores, and scores were good until they became not as important and magical. We didn't really, scores sort of died off a little because people wanted to just see the whole game, and they don't care how many points they get. They just want to play the entire game.
Yeah.
This idea of leveling up is actually based. I think of it. There's a book called Flow, and it's a very popular book.
I've read it. Yeah, good book.
And sort of, I process it slightly differently, which is this idea that you need to know where you are and you need to know where you're going, but you need to see that whatever you just did got you closer to the goal, and that's very important. So imagine you're sitting there and you're working and you're working and working, and you have no idea if you progressed at all. And this, by the way, happens all the time to a lot of people. Is they're just working and they just don't know, did I get any better at anything? And so in a video game, they go out of their way to let you see that every little thing you do is progressing you towards the next level. So you'll be level 7, and you can see yourself getting to level 7. And the way they mathematically do it is they make level 8 harder to get to. So when you get to 7, then it goes, okay, you're on your way to 8, but 8's going to be more, even harder. And so it's very interesting because the psychology is when you see yourself getting closer to a goal, this would be like climbing a mountain, and you see the top of the mountain getting closer and closer and closer to you. That's what keeps you climbing. If you don't know, imagine you're in the fog. You're on a mountain. You're in the fog, and you can't see the top of the mountain anymore. And you're walking. And you're exhausted, and nothing's changed. You can't see the top. People sit down and die, right?
Yeah.
So my thing is, don't die on the mountain. You need to think about, like, what's that next stage, and have some way to see what it is. In anything you do, and if you do, you won't stop doing it because you'll feel the progress. In video games, you find that when you use that progress system, it's very common. You're almost at level 8. Oh my goodness, I'm almost there, and they just keep playing, and then it's 3 a.m, and that's the flow thing where they just get into the state, I'm just going to do it, and then they go to bed very comfortable and happy because they're now level 8. And so it's funny because I talk about this in business. It's quite common where whatever product you're making, quite commonly people at some point will get stuck and not move forward. There's some step in the process that they have to make a phone call or fill out a form or do something that add your credit card information, and they stop, and you lose them at that point. In the game industry, the kind of tricks we use is, like, if we find that in our game most people stop at level 7, we can see it in the data. Level 7 is like everyone's just falling off level 7 and dying. So we have to get them to level 8. One of the tricks you can do is give them something that will only work when they get to level 8. So here's a horse, here's a sword, here's something that's a level 8 item, and you'll find them kind of excited because they want to see what it's like to ride a horse when you get to, because they've been walking for the first set of levels. So this kind of idea of in whatever your product is, dragging you through the friction so that you continue on the other side is actually very important. But this is considered sort of gamification and some of the things that the game industry has learned, of which there are many, as you can imagine.
Oh, I can. But it's really, I'm sitting here fascinated, David, because I've not thought about. I've played games. I have to be honest. I don't play a lot of computer games. I play card games mainly, but I'm old school, right? But I see in the games now this idea of leveling up, and it's the reason why I asked the question, because I don't remember that when I was a kid, really. The first time I ever saw the different levels was when you was on the Star Wars Atari game, and you went from one level to the next, and there was like 3 levels or something, and that was kind of cool. But it's interesting, the psychology you were talking about, i.e. scores on themselves are good, but they're not as good as leveling up. And so you're seeing this constant progression, whereas a score, does it give you that constant progression? I don't know. It's interesting.
Well, the scores, the way games used to be, and this is actually for a technical reason. So games were very short because there wasn't much storage room to put a game into. So the game might only have 4 levels or something.
Mhm.
So what we would do is we'd make you start the game from the start again. So you'd play through, you would die 3 or 4 times, and then we'd send you back to the start.
Mhm.
And that meant you had to go through that painful process of playing the whole game over and over and over. But that was fine. That was how games worked back then.
Yeah.
But as the game size increased and as the content increased, people got frustrated with the resetting of everything, and they didn't really care about the score. They just want to play your video game all the way through. So it was quite hard for me as a game designer at the time, going, wait, what? We have to design the game so you don't die? Like there's no how does that even work, right? Like you're just going to keep playing, and games started coming out that were doing that, and it was hard to argue with it. You still have to do some things right, but ultimately people would rather have progression than having to reset and start all over again. So, but yeah, we
Yeah.
learned some things from the way people play the games.
That's just amazing. But I like how you talked about that in life, how you took that process of leveling up. And so, actually you apply this to people. So you're the CEO of Carro, right? So, which, we talked about it helps Shopify people sort of we'll talk more about Carro, I think, as we go along. But you're the CEO, you have a team of people, you had a team of people in your gaming business. How do you use this idea of leveling up in your leadership of other people? If you do, I'm curious.
It's a little I'm from that school that I don't think titles are that important in companies, and I obviously get friction on that because people believe that that's very important. But what I mean by that, just to be clear, is I could take your business card and write President of the United States on it. Does that make you President of the United States? And the answer is not really, no. So therefore, whatever I write on someone's card, does that make them that person, or do they have to be that person?
Yeah.
So that's what I find is talent tends to they tend to come in and just be amazing at the thing that they're actually built to do, and that what you're really trying to do is assemble a team of really amazing people. I call them 10Xers. They tend to be 10 times a normal person. And one of the tricks that they have, as a DNA level thing, is when they hit hurdles, they don't talk about them. They 10Xers tend to just, like, I don't know how podcasting works. Well, they just work it out, right? And you don't even hear about it. They don't say to you problem. It's just solved. And so I call them hurdle jumpers, or in certain cases, they kick the hurdles out of the way, which I prefer even more. So, but I know you've like everyone listening has always they've always been in a meeting and sat there and listened to someone tell them why you can't do something.
Yeah.
And those are not the 10Xers. And it turns out your whole team doesn't have to be this at all. It just means that you have to have those people in some of the key roles. Then everything moves really fast. When you do that, you'd be amazed. Like, you can't slow them down. These people are hardcore.
Yeah.
And that ultimately is, I think, the most valuable piece of building a company is finding those individuals. And when you get, then the company just really starts moving. And then I think probably the second thing is just finding people that think outside the box, so they're not just copying everything. One of the things I think about is how easy it is to hire talent if you're offering them a job where they actually get to create things. So if I want to hire someone from Facebook, for example, and they've been in a cubicle for the last few years, and their job is to do this one thing, and they're super talented, but they're doing this one thing in this enormous machine. I call that washing the dishes. So I'm like, in reality, they're just washing the dishes. They're coming to work every day. They don't have that much power. They can't make new decisions. They're not steering the future of Facebook at all. And so the point is, can we get you to join our team? And here you will, like, we're not copying anybody. There are things that are going to happen tomorrow that we're going to sit there and go, how do you solve that? Because that hasn't been solved yet. And that endless innovation is actually thrilling for engineers and creative people, to be able to come and do something that they know they're inventing and steering the future that maybe other people will follow carbon copy. I think that's where I like to operate. So we think of it as being at the tip of the spear. And it can be a very dangerous place to be, but in reality, that's where we like to be. And you can imagine the conversations you have when you're brainstorming, when you're in that space, are really, really fascinating, because there's so many directions that you can go in, and so many options on the table. But that's generally the way we like to think. With our current company, just to give an example of that, is we're thinking about, if you were to make a product, like say you made a product tomorrow and you got it into a large retailer in the US, that'd be someone like Target or Walmart or Costco would be a huge one. Your whole team would be going crazy because it's such a huge one. Because you're now in a major retailer getting all of the traffic and money and eyeballs and everything that organization can give you just simply by partnering with them. And so our thought was, who does that for you online? Like, who helps you get your products pushed into other people's traffic so you get their customers and their sales without paying for any of it? Today, we've been trained that you have to buy every click. So you're paying for every click that comes to your website. And that's a very expensive way to do it. What if you place your products into traffic at major respected sites, and we make this effortless? That it's cool because the cost per 1,000 clicks in this scenario is zero. So how many would you like for zero? That it's very relevant, and even in an economy like currently we have, a pretty rough economy in the United States, and I'm in the UK, I believe it's the same. So the idea that you can reduce marketing costs is very interesting. So you start in a direction like that, and then you go, well, how does that work? And you just run into endless problems. Like, there's just endless things that you didn't think of. So when you have, I dropped something. If you have two brands that have built their stores entirely differently, how do we connect them together so that they can actually be truly compatible and work together? Or if we have 30,000 brands installed, they all have built their stores differently and actually tagged all their products differently. So if you say, well, I want white sweatshirts, that's not necessarily going to just bring up whites. You'd be amazed what it looks like, right? And so the reality is we had to then recategorize everyone's products in everyone's stores, which we had to use computer vision for, and a team in the Philippines to actually teach the computer vision that it's doing it right. And you kind of get into these, again, it's a hurdle, and we could sit there and complain about it. Oh, all this data is really not organized, and it's like, no, we just have to solve that. And so that requires a data science team. That requires a whole bunch of supervised learning. But the result is we can have millions of products in our platform effortlessly now because we've taken the time to do that. But that's what this what is about, is this idea of constantly just climbing over whatever it is that the next thing that's the problem. But if you do, you end up somewhere cool, and that's what we love.
That's fascinating. And just to explain, actually, because I know what Get Carro is, and you've touched on it briefly. So it's basically, if I have, you tell the example you told me. You got the bike with the bike helmet guy, right? That was a great example.
Bike store, and your bike store is doing great. So you're doing great selling bikes, but you don't sell helmets. And it's like, but that means I'm going to have to go to Amazon to buy the helmets. And in reality, if you sold the helmet, then you actually get that extra incremental sale. So it's your average order value will increase. And also your average lifetime value per customer will increase if you can get add complementary items. And so then you go, what about gloves and a pump and a bike lock and all these other things? Well, they didn't have those too. So why don't we give you all of those? Because we have a whole library. And to be clear, this is not drop shipping from China or something like that. It's not an affiliate thing. It's actually, no, these are your favorite brands, the brands that you would normally buy wholesale from. We'll just connect them into your store. So suddenly you have all the helmets and all the sizes and all the colors, and you can sell them, and you can learn what your audience would like. Today, if you did it the old way, you would actually go and buy wholesale, which means you're actually going to go find someone who will sell you a pallet of helmets, and you have to freight that, insure that, put that into shelves, have people touch it, market it, have a clearance sale, restocking fees when you send some of it back. It's a mess. And so all of that goes away if you just wire the two companies together. Their inventory becomes your inventory. And so it's using technology to just solve massive, painful problems that people have just put up with in the past. We come across companies where they are trying to do partnerships with other brands, but they're doing it all in spreadsheets. They're FTPing inventory levels every night. It's like, and they hire people to do it, right? So they have a whole team of people to handle it because they just have to solve the problems. But by modernizing, using technology, all of this stuff can rapidly improve, and so that's what we're trying to build.
Yeah, it's I think it's brilliant what you guys do, and it's very clever. And I'm looking forward to when it's not just Shopify, because we're not on the Shopify platform. But 2023. So this attitude, then, have you? I mean, obviously, at some point you decided I'm going to start writing games, and you went, you learned, you overcome obstacles, and this is what you did with Get Carro. You started it. There was an obstacle. We figure out a way around it, and you just keep going and you keep going. Is that is that the way you generally approach the sort of challenges that you face in business and in life?
Well, it's you with Dreamweaver, right? I'm going to build a company that does cloud gaming, but I know nothing about how the actual servers on the internet function. So I teamed up with some people that became my co-founders, who were engineers that were very technical in on the server, sort of core server code side. I actually built the first server on my dining room table, drove to Los Angeles and pushed it into a rack. And I'd never been to a data center before. That was kind of fascinating. And then we realized, well, hold on, we need servers all over the country. How are we going to do that? And the answer is, well, if you pay, you can do that, but it's going to cost a fortune to pay for all these data centers. So I went onto, I'm not kidding you, I went onto Wikipedia and I looked up the largest, data backbone internet operators, and I called each one, and some wouldn't return my call, some took my call, were trying to sell me services, and one of them was called Savis, and the guy from Savis, I said to him, look, what I actually need is I need a map of the US with each of your data centers, and I want to see how fast your connections are, because this needs to be super high performance, and I know it's not a circle. So if you send me a map with a circle on it, it's fake, right? I need it shows like from this city, it's like a big kidney shape or a heart shape. I need that. And the guy goes to me, dude, if that existed, I could sell the hell out of that. Like that would be so valuable to me for my job. And I said, well, can you introduce me to the CEO, and we'll see if we can help you make that. And so he did, and I'm then sitting in St. Louis with the CEO of Savis, and he said, this would be great. Let's work together. You can use our network for free, and so suddenly it was a huge unlock. So suddenly you have this whole backbone major internet company saying, you have a free run of our data centers. You can put servers anywhere you want.
Wow.
You can imagine startup. The value of that was profound. But it's like, but I'm calling phone numbers after looking companies up in Wikipedia, right? So what is that? Is that tenacity or is that stupidity? I don't know. But in reality, it's how you get stuff done. And so the result was profoundly helpful for us as a startup. And long story short, this is when I've worked with really interesting people, I've noticed that they tend to do things like that. When we years ago, we got to work on the Matrix video game, and the Wachowskis literally pulled up in a limo outside our offices, and I was like, "You really took the time to come down here?" And they just, it's that lesson that you have to meet the people that are going to do the thing. They have to walk the office and see the people and see it's real, and then they're totally comfortable and they can do the thing. I was so impressed, because a lot of people don't get in the car and take the time to go and check the thing out. It's funny. My daughter's. I'm this thing that I talk about trying to learn something about everything. Even my daughters now So she's currently watching a course on real estate, being a real estate agent and learning how to buy homes and all the rest of it.
Wow.
Not she's going to be a real estate agent. It's just interesting. And it's like just seeing the advice they're giving. It's like that all the way through. There's just so much great advice on how to interact with people, how to make decisions, all the rest of it. So you can go, but I'm not going to be a real estate agent. So why should I ever watch that? That's stupid, right? That's a waste of my time. It's not a waste of your time. There's all these interesting things you learn about how to deal with people, find talent, negotiate, etc. And it just, you file it all away and then you move on to the next thing. And so, she'll move on to stocks when she's done with the real estate course, and then she'll move on to editing video using DaVinci Resolve, right? Something like that. And that continuous growth of your awareness and how everything works, I think, becomes really valuable later in life when suddenly you need to do something like that, and you're like, oh, actually, I know how this works. And so it's so fun to watch her starting effectively from zero, because she's coming out of high school and now she's starting on this course. But it's I think it's incredibly helpful with rapport whenever you're meeting people, wherever. Like, I go into business meetings and I know that there's something that we do in common. There's something that they're into that I'm into. They're into woodworking. I can talk their leg off on woodworking. They're into photography. I can talk their leg off on photography. Water skiing, flying helicopters, you name it. I can go and go and go. And so that's, I think, an important piece that, and it shouldn't be treated as like, oh, this is a grind. Like, this is killing me having to learn how cameras work or something. I did the podcasting setup not to become a podcaster. I hate the idea that there's this thing that's so popular that I don't fully understand. And so know what's the best software, what's the best hardware, how it all is configured and works. And then I can file it away and move on to the next thing. But if you meet someone into podcasting, I can talk, intelligently about it because I understand it. And I've actually set up my sound effects and everything. I get it. It's fun to do that stuff. But anyway, that's what I'm generally, when someone has a chance to do something that you normally would say, well, I don't have time, or that's not my thing. Just do it.
Just have
go
a
ahead and just go. Someone once said to me, will you jump out of an airplane with me? And I was like, I guess I have to. I don't want to. I have no interest in jumping out of an airplane at all. But I'm like, damn, I guess I got to do it. So
and did you do it?
Of course, yeah.
And would you do it again?
Never. And this is why this is important, because whatever you do, you end up with a story doing that. So I'm 6'8". You can't tell that from this, from a sort of a Zoom chat. But in reality, 6'8", when you have a dude on your back that's your instructor who's just a little guy, he looked like Yoda on my back. Came in far too fast, and I'm trying to run. Think about this. When you come in too fast, my legs hit the ground first, so I'm running with a guy on my back, and that didn't work out. We ended up just face planting.
Oh wow!
And I got rather beaten up, and they made a video of it with the Queen song "Another One Bites the Dust," which was.
So it makes a good social media meme now, right? Just don't give that to your daughter when she's got DaVinci Resolve. It'll appear everywhere. That's brilliant. So where did this philosophy of learn something about everything and everything about something, is that kind of, it seems to be like a thread throughout all the stories you've told so far, or is this something that's a point in time you consciously went, no, this is what I'm going to do?
Yeah, I once I used to go to the TED conferences a lot, and they actually force some introspection. You spend a lot of time listening to really smart people, and you start thinking about, what am I built for? What am I all about? What do I do? And it was one day I was sitting in my office, and I had just asked for a new PC. Can you get me a new PC? And then I sat there and I went, well, what is it I really like to do? And the answer is I like to learn, and not learn in a boring way, learn in an understand the world way. And so I went, why did I just order a computer? Because I should know how to do that myself. And so I literally was like, no, I'll just actually build one myself. And
Okay.
I got the parts in, and I remember sitting on my office floor building the most badass computer exactly the way I wanted, with the color lights and everything the way I wanted it. Um, Kind of going, this is exactly what I love to do. There should
Mm.
be no mystery. And I used to, and almost jokingly, when I would interview people, is I'd ask them about their computer. And, like imagine you and I are doing a job interview right now. And I
Yeah.
would say, tell me about your computer.
Mm-hmm.
And, RAM, how much memory, what processor is it using? And the answers are just terrible. Right? You'd be stunned. People have absolutely no idea the thing they're using all day, every day, that's so critical
Yeah.
that they can customize and make it, the way they want it.
Yeah.
Have no concept of what's going on. And so that's the idea of saying, you know what, I'm actually going to find this out, and I'll go through the process. This was most of the stuff I did was pre, the density of YouTube videos there are
Mm.
today. These days, just about everything is explained simply, clearly on
Mm.
video. And so and they'll tell you what to buy and how to put it together. To some extent, that to me then makes things almost required. You should definitely give that a try.
Yeah.
And, like just anything that you really are going to use a lot, or it might be helpful to know about.
Mm-hmm.
Just YouTube it. There's a
Yeah.
video somewhere.
There is.
I'm currently into e-bikes. That's my
Okay.
latest thing. So I bought a really, my friends were riding e-bikes, and I thought to myself, there's got to be someone in the world that's making a ridiculously cool e-bike. And I found a company in Australia, and I bought one. I started in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
So back then, the bike that I got was ridiculous for the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And I recently did the same thing again. I went online and found, a normal e-bike's about 750 watts. You can get 3,000 watts, 4,000 watts, 5,000 watts. Mine's
Mm.
15,000 watts. And so, it's that I did the same with drones. When drones came out, I was building them myself. And,
Yeah.
really just I have a little a table up in the garage that allows me just to lay out all the bits and just start putting together drones. And
Mm.
it was so cool because at that time, drones were brand new. This was before they had that bad rap that they have now, and
Yeah. Yeah.
they
Yeah.
were practical devices. So when I would go out with a drone at a national park or something, people would come up to me going, "What is this? Like, this is incredible." I'd show them the screen, and they
Mm-hmm.
just melted their brains. If I had a stack of them, I could have just sold them on the spot.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Over time, then they got people started to think that, the worst thing in the world, and they want to shoot them out of the air. But in reality, learning how those things work, you actually start thinking to yourself, what would be a good drone? Like, now
Mm-hmm.
that you know how they work and how to build them, then you start literally. I started designing my own. Like, how far could a drone actually get?
Mm-hmm.
And you end up literally designing the whole drone around the battery. So it's a flying battery just to see how far you can go. But that
Mm-hmm.
again, that process of learning about something like that isn't that I'm going to be flying drones all day, every day. That's not the point at all. The point is, when I meet somebody in a business environment that's really into drones, like that's their
Yeah.
thing, I'm there. I got you. I can carry that conversation.
You can talk
And
to them.
so that's probably something that's helped me the most in my career, for sure. No
Yeah.
doubt about it. I've been invited to the most unbelievable situations and met really incredible people. And these doors tend to open through those relationships that you build this way. And one of the thing I would recommend, by the way, is learn one magic trick. You need one
Such a
trick.
good
That's
tip. Such a
very,
good
very
tip.
helpful. Do not learn magic. You don't need a show. You don't buy a magic book with 500 tricks. They're so boring. Do not do that. But somehow find one professional trick, and then you can perform that, and people will be like, "Oh my God, it's amazing!"
Yeah.
And you,
Yeah, that's such a good tip. Such a good
yeah,
tip. I learned that very early on, actually. There's like 2 or 3 card tricks that I know. And and you can just pull them out at any time, and people are like, "Wow, that's amazing." But I love this. I mean, I love what you're talking about. There's a lot of learning. There's a lot of creativity. There's a lot of fun. There's a lot of challenge with the sort of things that you're talking about. I'm curious though, David. I mean, in one sense, I'm. It's like you're talking about me. I could match part of your story just with a whole bunch of other stories. And actually, I find that whole learning thing quite challenging. It's a lot of it is what I do in my downtime. I like woodwork, you like woodwork, and you go and you figure it out, right? And I'm just curious, do you find it life-giving, or are there other things that you do to sort of recharge your tank, to sort of recharge your batteries, sort of refill your tank type thing, out of the busyness of life? Is this what you do as well, or is there something else?
Yeah, that was another epiphany I had, which was I do a lot of business work. So I'm doing spreadsheets and PowerPoints and making lists of things, and having conference calls. And I thought to myself one day, when I'm dead, is my daughter going to cherish any of that stuff?
Cherish your spreadsheet.
My dad made this spreadsheet.
Print it off and put it on the wall. Yeah.
It's not going to happen. So I actually had a moment of, damn, I'm not really contributing much to that sort of space. If you, an analogy I use is, if you look around the room that you're in right now, there are objects everywhere, and every single thing someone obsessed over and used their talent and creativity to make it.
Yeah.
And I go, well, hold on. How far does that go? I'm talking down to the screw. There was a guy who said, this is the right screw, and this is the right threads, and this is the right metal. They care about everything. And so you have this whole world that we interact with that other people are building. And it's a little sad that we don't necessarily participate in that. And those are the things that are more likely to survive time. And that's, funnily enough, why I thought woodworking would be interesting, is if I made some furniture that people would go, my dad made that, or my grandpa made that, and it's really cool, then that's interesting. When I approach it, I learn how to use computers to help carve the wood. So I do things that a normal human would find incredibly hard to do, but I'm using computers to do it.
CNC.
And you end up CNC, and you end up with real woodworkers think you're cheating because you're using computers, but no, I'm still taking a block of walnut and making something really nice out of it. So I don't think so. It's a bit like in photography. If you learn Photoshop, a lot of people don't learn Photoshop, so therefore Photoshop must be evil, right? It's just ruining the pictures. It's the worst thing ever. But when you actually learn it, it's a wonderful thing, and it augments the photos that you're taking. And so I'm a bit of a fan of that, sometimes bringing technology to something that's analog. But at the end of the day, I'd like to leave stuff behind. So pictures, like if I take a photograph of someone and that's their favorite picture of themselves, and this has happened to me, where literally that becomes their icon. You can see it everywhere they go in their social media. That becomes who they are. The thrill of the fact that I got that moment, which you can never get again, like that moment that they personally think they look really good, I think is really, really fun. And so, what is that? Well, that's actually taking a step outside of the sphere in which you operate. Like I go to work, I do my thing, I go home, I watch TV and I go to sleep. That's not that, you're not leaving a lot behind then. So the question is, can you learn how to get an authentic expression out of someone? Can you learn how to make people laugh when you're taking their pictures? But you can see my brain just immediately goes down that rabbit hole of who will teach me that. I don't have time to learn that. So who will teach me that, like in a day? I want someone who's done it for 30 years to teach me in a day. The thing is that whatever you want to learn, there's somebody who's done it for 30 years that will teach you it, usually weekend, or maybe the most I've ever had is 4 or 5 days for the download. And you walk around, it's a bit like in the Matrix, where they're like, I need to fly a helicopter, and then they shudder and suddenly they can how to fly a helicopter. Well, that does exist today. That's called finding an expert and paying them, for a weekend or whatever they need to do the download. And the value of that is so immense. I was at a woodworking like a conference once, and there was this guy who'd been woodworking for 30 plus years who said, "This is the best varnish." And I went up to him at the end and I go, "You probably think there's no value to that statement, 'This is the best varnish.'"
But that really is.
Through them all, and you work this out, and that's the one that I'm going to be buying. And of course I did, and it's amazing.
Which one was it?
It was called Armor Seal. It's very, very amazing. And you know, what is that? The fact that there's so many people out there willing to share what they've learned. Why wouldn't you accept that and absorb that information?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. I think a large part of my disposable income has gone on books, online courses, you know, just learning, just like you say, finding the best people that can teach you, and then just learning from them. And I like your thing about, you know, your legacy. What are you leaving behind? Your bit of furniture. I find I'm like you. I like to bring digital into the analog world because digital is my world. But I, like you, we've joked about this before, you know, you build furniture and I build furniture. I'm sat at a desk that I made, for example, in a studio which I built out of scrap wood, but that's another story. But the thing I like about it is it's not totally digital, right? I'm having to use my hands. I can bring CNC into it. I actually have, I'm not going to talk shop now, listeners. Sorry, we're just going to talk woodwork for the next few minutes. Have you come across the Shaper Origin?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I have one of those, right? I use that thing all the time. It's unbelievable what that thing can do. My 13, well, she's not 13, she's 15. When I got it, she was 13. She was using it all the time to do woodwork as well. And it's just a great sort of bonding thing. But I like the fact that it was different to my day-to-day, but it was familiar enough that I could bring a little bit of what I knew with the digital to make this world a little bit easier as well. And I found that, you know, spending a day in a workshop for me is a brilliant way to unwind from spending all week doing something digital, right? That was what sort of recharged my batteries. And so, what's your out of the stuff that you've made, what's the thing that you're most proud of? I'm really curious.
It's funny because, just touching on the Shaper Origin, the concept of that is that you're taking a device and setting it down and it moves around and cuts the wood, right? That means that you could build something very large. I went about it the other way, which is I had to buy a big, large gantry, which is like 12 by 6 feet that moves around. So I'm actually always limited by the amount of wood that I can place down, whereas you can keep going. But overall, I think the things that I made that were coolest, I had an employee who was getting married, and I said, "Let me make you something." And she said to me, "Will you make I really want to get some kind of bench for the end of my bed, and I'd like it to fit perfectly." And I'm like, this is exactly what we can do.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
He said to me, "Here's some things I like the look of," and they were pillow shaped, you know, like that old style, you know, where they're cushiony. And I thought, can I do that with CNC? And then I started playing with it, like making sort of little wooden cushions, and carved it out of walnut. And the final product was gorgeous. I mean, it was gorgeous. And by the way, it had that varnish on it, the really good one. I mean, it popped, right? You need sunglasses when you look at it. But it was beautiful. And then I took a class. There was this guy who's a Korean woodworker, and he said, you know, I'm going to teach you how to make furniture the Korean way. And so we walk into the class, and he says, "Okay, everybody, you're going to hate this, but we're going to saw for 6 hours, and you're not allowed to use any powered tools." And we had to literally just stand there going, zzz, zzz, zzz. And he goes, "The reason is because in the end of you'll never take the time to do this, but I'm going to force you to. And the end of it, you're going to learn how to saw properly." And it means from this day forward, anytime you need to just saw things well, you know, we're going to show you how to do it right. And I came home with a Zen desk, like a bench, like it was a sitting outside that is a cantilever shape. So it's not legs on one side. It's sort of it's this sort of heavy joint on one side. And to sort of come away with something like that is a beautiful piece of furniture. That's kind of zen and cool. I think people would like that. and you kind of go, I'm glad I took the time to do that, right? That I actually took the time to look up. There's a place in Anaheim near Disneyland where this guy will teach you this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So glad I took the time to go do that. And so that would be, I mean, my problem is like, what about cooking? You know, I haven't had time yet. That's on my list. Like I gotta learn. But do you believe there's a really good chef out there would teach you how to make an amazing, X, whatever it is, beef Wellington or something?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer is, of course there is. And you just have to actually get on with it. And then you'll make amazing beef Wellington.
Yeah, you will.
you know,
Yeah.
that's the bottom line. So
No,
anyway,
absolutely.
and I made another table for a friend who had got married, and that was an outdoor table. But it was what I realized is that wood is a very different quality. So if you just order wood, you're going to get garbage. And if you find a guy in Philadelphia with a certain walnut trees, and you become his friend, so you have to have rapport. So you have to become his friend, and then you have to explain what you're doing. And you say, I'm building this as heirloom furniture for my family, so I want my daughter to be able to enjoy this. He'll get into the story. He'll get excited about it. He's like, you're not going to just chop this up and make stairs out of it or something. No. This is going to be used for this kind of stuff. And he goes, I've got the wood for you, right? And suddenly a pallet of wood shows up that is just gorgeous, and it's the stuff you would build maybe guitars out of, and that level of wood. But because they're in, and you've built rapport with them, suddenly you have things to work with that normal people just couldn't get their hands on. And that's really
brilliant. That's brilliant. David, listen, I could wax lyrical about woodwork all night long, and walnut and so on and so forth. And I just, it's fantastic talking to you, but I'm aware of time. And we always, unfortunately, have to draw these conversations to a close. If people want to reach out to you, what's the best way to do that?
The easy way to find me is LinkedIn/n/dperry, DPERRY. So that's the easiest way. For our company, our website is getcarro.com. If you have a Shopify store and it's doing well, please join our network and we'll help you grow. And that, if they go to getcarro.com and install, just make sure to email hello@getcarro.com and tell them about this podcast, and we'll take really good care of you. So that would definitely be the thing to do.
Fantastic. Well, that's brilliant. We'll put all of those links in the show notes. I'm really curious. My final question for you, right? Because as you know, this show is sponsored by Orion Media, which specializes in helping folks like me, like you, set up and run their own podcast. So you've got your Rodecaster, right?
Yep.
And you've got your SM58 microphone with your cloud lifter set. You've got your podcast set. You've got the camera because you're a photographer. You set everything's set up. I'm really curious. Who are the guests that you would have on your show out of the people that have sort of impacted your life? Who would be there? Who would you want to talk to?
I would probably really try to get to the most creative people. I think just the conversations are so incredibly valuable with those people. When you deal with directors, the Wachowskis were a good example. Just listening to how they converse with each other and the knowledge of the movies that they have is just fascinating. And so going through, and then there's the business side too, and there's investors too. They're really actually very interesting. Investors are interesting because they hear everybody's pitches. So I mean, honestly, I'm jealous because imagine you go in a room and people tell you everything they know about where they're going in the future and all the things they've sort of studied and trends and why what they're doing is exceptional and new. And then you just go to the next meeting and you get the same thing and the same thing. You're getting all this download of information from really smart people. And so I think that's those kind of people would be really interesting as well, and trying to help people understand how to raise money and what these people look for. But again, I don't know if I could get stuck into one theme. I think you just listening to me, I would love to end up talking to people about whatever it is that they do. And that's generally how I roll. So I think there's something to be learned from all of these different people and how they approach what they do. And then you can sort of work out, well, how can I use that in my life? Probably the way to go.
Yeah, that is, funnily enough, that's one of the beautiful things about Push. I get to talk to people like yourself and pick their brains for an hour. It's awesome, the stuff that you learn. So, David, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast, but it's been fantastic. As always enjoy our conversations. It's been an absolute treat. Thank you.
No, thank you for inviting me.
Oh, it's been great. So there you have it. What a fantastic conversation with Mr. Perry there. Thank you so much again, Dave, for joining me. And also, again, a big shout out to today's show sponsor, Orient Media. If you're wondering if podcasting is a good marketing strategy for you, whether you have the Rode Procaster or not, do connect with them at aurionmedia.com. That's AURION media.com. We will, of course, link to them in the show notes, as well as to David himself and his websites. They are available at pushtobemore.com, so you can get all of that sort of stuff. Now be sure to follow Push to Be More wherever you get your podcast from, because we've got yet more great conversations lined up and I don't want you to miss any of them. And in case no one, dear listener, has told you yet today, you are awesome. Yes, you are. It's just a burden you've got to bear. David's got to bear it. I have to bear it. It's just the truth. So Push to Be More is produced by Orient Media. You can find their entire archive of episodes on your favorite podcast app. The team that makes this show possible is Sadaf Bain on Josh Catchpole, Estella Robin, and Tim Johnson. Theme music was written by my very talented son, Josh Edmondson. And as I mentioned, if you would like to read the transcript or show notes, head to the website pushtobemore.com. And if you haven't done so already, sign up for the weekly newsletter and get all of the links, all of the magic straight to your inbox totally for free. That's it from me. That's it from David. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a fantastic week wherever you are in the world. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.